This is Defiance Daily Dispatches for the Defiant. I am your host, Miles Taylor, and it's Wednesday, which means that it is a special day, folks, because here at defiance.org, Wednesdays are days when we take real action to counter corruption. Every single week without fail. That's why we launched this organization. That's why I'm doing this every single day. That's why my co-founder, Xander Schultz, gave up another life to be in this with me, is we are working to crowdsource actions to counter Donald Trump's abuses of power. And today is no exception. Later in the program, we have an incredible organization that we are teaming up with to get out the vote in the most important midterm election in American history, potentially all of American history. And don't just take my word for it. You hear that all the time, but recent surveys show that most Democratic voters, most pro-democracy voters actually do see this as the most important midterm in their lifetime. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the group that we're teaming with to get out the vote and protect our elections, to make them too big to rig. But before that, we will have a special guest on with us today, someone who has seen the corruption up close, someone who was portrayed as a villain by the political right, and who now is both building bridges and continuing to fight the corruption we are seeing in our politics. Before I bring him on, I want to bring in my Defiance.org co-founder, Xander Schultz. Xander, I get fired up for Wednesdays. This is when we do real things. No offense to people podcasting every day. I like to do something every week. This is the do something day. This is what we spend our resources on. This is what we spend our time on. And you're excited about this one too.
You know, what I'd like to do, though, is after this election and not have to say this next election is the most important election of our lifetime. It'd be nice to win this one sufficiently, maybe put checks and balances back in order, maybe, you know, get rid of this current president. We got to evict this guy maybe before 2028. So it'd be great if this is the last most important election of my lifetime, because we've been on a streak. I'm on, you know, the 6th in a row. Most important election of my lifetime.
We're on a streak. And I'll tell you what, our next guest is from a family who, at the time, I said that's what they were going to deliver for us. They were going to make politics boring again. When I left the administration, when I went on the campaign trail for the first time in my life, trying to get a Democrat elected, that was the selling point. When I went to red communities around the country to try to get Republicans to defect and vote for a Democrat for the first time in their lives, as I said, let's make politics boring again. Yeah. And not that I was saying Joe Biden was a boring guy, but that he was committed to make this boring again, so we didn't have to think about what our government was doing every single day. I don't know if he stands by the message, make politics boring again, but let's find out. Bring into the conversation the great Hunter Biden. He is with us today on Defiance Daily, but maybe I should introduce him as MAGA Whisperer. Hunter, is that a title you're willing to accept?
I'll accept it. I'll accept it reluctantly, but I'll accept it. Yeah, they make it hard.
Well, yeah. I have to say, my friend, you, as I noted at the intro, for a long time, you were, you know, one of the villains of folks on the right, and you have said yourself that for a pretty big stretch of time, you were one of the top most talked about people on Fox News. I think the number 3 most talked about person on Fox News. One, are you sad to have lost that status? And 2, why did you lose that status?
Oh my gosh, I'm happy to let the title go, but I'm working hard to get it back. You know, if they'll have me.
Well, I mean, aside, you have become kind of a MAGA whisperer. It was, I'm not overstating this in saying you captivated the public attention in the past couple of months by engaging your critics. It was a remarkable lesson for folks, and not just a political lesson. I mean, it was a interpersonal reminder for people about how to engage with people who have dehumanized you. And I've watched you on, you know, the Candace Owens conversations, the Tucker Carlson thing recently. For our viewers who haven't been following along, take us into why. What made you decide you wanted to start talking to these critics, and especially these folks on the far right who had caricatured you for so long?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons is because I gave him a an open lane for close to 7 years, and and people have to understand is that during that time, I was sober for since June of 2019, and I was rebuilding my life, and in the midst of trying to rebuild my life, which anybody that's gone through recovery, I always say to people, you don't get clean and sober on a winning streak. There's consequences, and a lot of them can be beautiful, and I have an enormous amount of gratitude for that period of time. But it was obviously really challenging because the attacks started coming. Nothing to do with me. I mean, I'm fully cognizant of this. Is that none of this was ever about me. It was about power. It was about the presidency. It was about my dad's campaign and then his administration. And because of that, I didn't have much of an opportunity to speak for myself. Rightfully so. The administration, the campaign came first, and but now, I'm I feel a hell of a lot stronger than I did in the early days of my sobriety. And beyond that too is that nobody's running for anything. I have a message, and the message is about, in my opinion, the thing that I care the most about is recovery, resilience, redemption. The idea that if you fall down, you can get back up. If I could have survived it, anybody could. And in the midst of that too, I have a lot to say about a lot of people that I think that are absolutely destroying this country. And I don't think it's a subjective opinion anymore. I mean, it is absolutely stunning to me on a daily basis, almost without exaggeration, really, no hyperbole whatsoever, almost on an hourly basis, the level of corruption they are engaged in. And who better to talk about corruption than the person that they put up as a poster boy for corruption? And I always point out to people, you can say whatever the hell you want about me. Believe every single thing that the New York Post or Fox News
Right.
spin about me. Believe every single thing. I'm not a patch on their ass as it relates to what is what's going on a daily basis. I mean, they are so brazen, and it doesn't just start with Trump and his 34,000 trades and $100,000 for I mean, I go on and on and on and on. It's not just him, and it's not just his kids. The concentric circles around them, from Steve Witkoff to Howard to Lutnick to every
It's
single
infected
one.
everyone. It's
Everyone.
not just
And
the main guy anymore. Yeah. 100%.
And by the way, I know that you guys know this, but Miles, like, we know all these guys. They're literally making millions of dollars selling our government, selling contracts, selling pardons, selling access, selling. They are literally. I always say, joke around that, but it's probably truth to it. I'd be surprised if they're not stripping out the copper pipes in the White House and selling them for scrap. Everything, single thing is for sale.
I think, Hunter, this is one of the reasons that you've hit a chord. The two things you just mentioned. One, redemption. That's an American story. We can all resonate with it. I too have been a fuck up at times. I didn't have a group to belong to because I was just being an idiot. It wasn't drug inspired, but I too also, everyone has been, not their best version of themselves and wanted a pathway to redemption. That resonates. And then corruption. We're all mad about corruption. And what I love about how you're engaging America writ large, including MAGA, is you're not just talking to the MAGA influencers either. You're not sticking with the elite MAGA folks. You're also talking to everyday MAGA members who come after you online. And you seem more than happy to engage. One of my favorites was this exchange with a woman named Ashley, if you remember, who found her way into your comments a few months ago. And after she was asking about your laptop, you tell her that pretty plainly that she must have been living under a rock if she hasn't seen it yet. She comes back with a pretty nasty shot at your addiction, saying she'd rather live under a rock than smoke it. That's actually pretty clever, Ashley. But instead of getting defensive, you basically agree with her. You said, me too. It was awful. And before you know it, she's telling you she's glad you're doing better and hopes you stay clean. Freaking awesome, man.
Well, by the way, Xander,
the work.
Xander, there's the thing. is that the thing that I've figured out really, and that I've known all along is this, is that addiction and is it's a universal. It's ubiquitous. It's 50 million Americans are suffer from addiction on a daily basis. There's not a family that's not touched by it. There's not a family that doesn't have a horror story. There's not a family that doesn't have a hope that the story can turn out like mine or many others that overcame their addiction. And you know, and that doesn't mean that we don't have to make amends for the things that we did when we were in the midst of our addiction. But it certainly doesn't, it means this, is that we don't have to live with the shame and the idea that we're not worthy, that we can't get back up on our feet, that we can't do esteemable things and do good things for the rest of our life. And so that's what I want to dedicate. You know, I work with an organization called Peak Pack Health. We're starting a foundation for aftercare. I work with an organization, these are my jobs other than my writing and my art. That works with homeless prevention, and a lot of that has to do with addiction. It's called Basti Universal, and I want to model that for people. And I got a lot of other plans. I'm doing a lot of other things. Wait till you guys see what I got cooked up in a few weeks. But I have things that I am doing, and one of the things that I think is the most important thing that we could all be doing right now is not just observing, but attacking the absurdity of this government that is a dictatorship. I always say to people, Miles, that you know, we have not we're not fighting to save our country anymore. We're fighting to get it back, because it is many respects has already been lost. He has completely and utterly destroyed the rule of law, and I am dedicated in any way that I can to continue to point that out.
I have to say, I so admire you focusing on addiction and going on the path there. I mean, I had talked a lot about, after the first Trump administration, when I was grappling with coming forward against the president, the sort of pressure cooker in my life. And, you know, I ended up going sober. I was abusing alcohol and prescription drugs and the whole bit. And, you know, ended up talking about that. That was actually one of the harder things to talk about in writing the book and in the conversation, not because I didn't want to tell people about it, but because you immediately, there's all of this baggage when you come forward and talk about addiction. Like, I'm so thrilled that you just said 50% of Americans suffer, because the first thing that someone who actually has a problem does is they try to, as fast as humanly possible, figure out why you're different and why, like, you really had a problem, but I don't have a problem. I mean, right, when I tell people that I'm sober, and I'm sure you get this all the time for the past 7 years, one of the first things I get is, oh, you know, what happened, right? They want you to tell them it was a court-ordered thing because I crashed a car into a child. You're like, no, I mean, I had a problem. And what I often say to people is, I was actually drinking as much as you. And people don't want to believe that, though, that there's such an addiction problem. But this is also, I feel like, the time in which you're coming forward and talking about this is especially pertinent because so many Americans in the past 10 years have watched our politics and society nosedive and have been over-medicating because of it. And that might be alcohol, that might be hard drugs, that might be social media. But we're seeing that become an extraordinary phenomenon. You can throw the pandemic in there, but I wonder what you make of that and what you would tell to folks right now, a lot of whom are listening to me say this and who are listening to you when you're out there and privately realizing, yeah, I think something's off. I just feel enormous stress that I can only find relief in some other thing that's not actually giving them relief. What lessons have you learned in that process to actually steer yourself towards the off-ramp and not be in denial about the off-ramp?
Yeah, that's a great question. I couldn't agree more. And, you know, for me is number one, about addiction and about how ubiquitous it is. And I'm not saying that everybody was a crack addict like me. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to make an argument that, and by the way, and I'm not saying that I was such a crack addict that I was beyond redemption. either. Not just redemption, but recovery. Forget about the redemption piece. The redemption's not something you is only something that you receive. It's not something you strive for. I'm not here for redemption. What I am here for is to show people that that a life is possible. And more than anything, I think in my addiction, and all of us suffer from this, and I don't think that it is just as it relates to people that are addicted to substances purely, is we all feel alone. Everybody thinks that they're alone in their pain. The single thing that connects us all as humans, but is just one thing. It's not necessarily love. Hopefully you can find love, but not everybody does. What it is pain. People suffer. People suffer not in their addiction. People suffer in their loneliness. People suffer in their grief. People suffer in their trauma. People suffer in the loss of loved ones, and all of these things I've had to live out in public since I was a child. And a lot of people think, oh, that must be hard. Well, the truth is, it's the thing that saved me. And the thing that saved me was the kindness and beautiful prayers and support of an entire community and so many people. I feel so guilty sometimes. You know, I talk about how hard it was to lose my brother. I'm not the only one who lost a brother. I'm not even remotely the only person that's lost a family member. I'm not the only person that's gone through addiction. I'm not the only person who's had childhood trauma. It is that I'm a part of a gigantic majority. And what we don't do, I was on Bill Maher, and I said, we don't talk about it. He's like, oh, I think we talk about it all the time. I talk about it, you know, I don't know what you're talking about. We talk about addiction and grief all the time on, you know, TV. And I'm like, Bill, tell me then, Bill, when do we talk about it as it being the thing that connects us all? Because it is that thing. And so, and one of the things about addiction is it's not just it's not just a crack addict. You don't have to be shooting heroin in a motel room to to qualify. Is what you're talking about is this. One of the things in terms of this addiction that keeps separating us. We all walk around literally with a bag of heroin. Well, let's say a bag of dopamine in our pocket, and it's called an iPhone. And we let it completely destroy and regulate our emotions in ways that are incredibly unhealthy for us, but very, very, very profitable for a handful of people, in which they divide us and they make us all think that there is no way that we're a nation that is being torn apart by ourselves. It's not by ourselves. We're being driven apart by people that have an interest in doing so. Because the more that we look at each other as the enemy, rather than looking up and figuring out we're getting fucked by people that have an interest in making an enormous trillions of dollars off of us, the easier it is for them to pull off the heist. And so I am, when, this whole mag whisper, one of the reasons, for instance, that I went on Tucker and Candace and Sean Ryan to a certain degree and others that are, MAGA or MAGA adjacent is they have woken up to one thing, that Donald Trump is an existential threat, a fraud, and a complete and utter incompetent moron. They have woken up to that. There's my opening. And they have these gigantic audiences that aren't completely there for on them with that are still speaking to them, because they were MAGA, to the core. And I get to go and tell my story. I get to go and talk about how we're more connected than we are divided. I get to model basically that as long as you're with me against Trump, then we can sit at the same table. And I think that one of the places, Miles, to start is talking about as openly and transparently as possible what most people don't talk about at their own dinner table, what it was like to be a crack addict, what it was like to be in that hell for that 2-year period of time that I was.
Yeah, I mean, talking about things that bring us together, a lot of this conversation, these things are so interwoven, right? The conversation around addiction and how the OxyContin corruption that led to so many people being addicted spread into Appalachia and the Midwest and these places that previously had not been dealing with this. And all of a sudden it went from a personal failure and something to criminalize to a mental health issue. It really has been addiction in this country has been both a bridge in the corruption conversation and in seeing each other as valuable human beings and not just failed individuals, as I think it was looked at previously.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things, one of the things that I feel like is a consequence of this, and not to politicize the addiction conversation, but it supercharges tribalism. And so, Hunter, that's one of the reasons why I think this completely breathtaking amount of corruption has been perpetuated is you have literally tens of millions of people who've been completely brainwashed by their social media addiction and their tribal addiction into just accepting anything that the tribal leader does, right? He wants a $400 million jet from Qatar, give it to him. He's the tribal leader, right? I mean, they're willing to just forget about the United States Constitution because the tribalism has gotten so deep. And I'm glad, like you, that a number of these MAGA and MAGA adjacent folks have broken off. And by the way, the same problem happens on the political left. Like, it's not just like the political right is the only one that has selection bias, but we are now seeing that phenomenon enable extraordinary corruption. And, you know that if Democrats take back Congress, they're going to make those investigations a top priority. They've been talking about it a lot, about how they're going to prioritize investigations. I wanted to, because for so long they tried to make you a poster child of alleged corruption. I just want to go through a quick rapid fire with you of different ways that the Trump family has been accused of corruption and what Democrats are talking about looking into. So I just want to start quickly with the Trump family's crypto venture, which of course has earned them billions, landed them a literal bank, World Liberty Financial, approved by regulators that Donald Trump appointed. At a private dinner Trump hosted for top holders of his meme coins, 73% of people vying for a seat were foreign nationals buying in through exchange and U.S. customers. I'm sorry, Hunter, if I had seen a Hunter Biden story about that, I would have said, I can't support this guy. I never saw a Hunter Biden story that was even close to just this.
You can get the Biden coin, Miles? Biden coin was a hot commodity for a bit.
And then the House Judiciary Committee says foreign money and big donations bought the administration's favor and got regulatory rollbacks and quietly dropped investigations in return. Burisma seems pretty quaint when it comes to just these two things, Hunter. I mean, is it not?
Well, by the way, think about this, is that when my dad was president, all of I made an average of about $225,000 a year, a little less in some years. And that's a high estimate on my part. Okay. In the entire 4 years of his presidency, I didn't do any business, not a single piece of business. I sat in this garage, which the fancy word for is my studio, and I painted. And I painted it because it saved my life. And I met a gallery owner who came with a friend of a friend, and we talked over a year and a half period of time, and we did a show. And that's how I made a living over a 4-year period. Every single buyer of my piece of art subsequently then had to testify before Congress in a sham impeachment investigation, and had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for to prepare for that testimony for hours and hours and hours. And under oath said, I bought the art because I liked it. I bought the art because Hunter's a good friend of mine. I bought the art because, and not a single foreign buyer, not a single one, not a single thing. That was me for 4 years when my dad was president. Okay. Everything else that they talk about was completely legitimate business that I conducted as a Yale-educated lawyer, that was a professor at Georgetown University, that was a lawyer at Boyce Schiller Frexner with a specific focus on corporate governance, that served on over 14 boards. And so all of that stuff happened, almost all of it, in the period of time when between my dad was vice president and president. Meanwhile, these guys, on day one, Don Jr. goes out and he opens up a club called the Executive Club, which is blocks from the White House, in which the stated purpose of the club is to rub shoulders with the decision makers of his father's administration for the low price of a $500,000 annual membership fee. And then what they do is they start a private equity fund, a venture capital firm called 1789 Capital, which has received over $3.4 billion in government in DoD contracts in the first 500 days for its underlying companies. It got the largest loan ever given to a private company loan guarantee out of the Department of Defense for $640 million for a rare earth mineral play. They have a deal in Kazakhstan for worth over $3 billion is their take on it, on a rare earth mineral play in connection with the Department of Energy. They have Eric. Let's talk about Eric. That's just all done. Let's talk about Eric. Eric has raised over $4 billion now, all from Gulf State money. He gets paid over $100 million in cash as fees for managing that fund by the Saudis. And that's just from the Saudi portion of it, the $2.1 billion from the Saudi point, while he is our Middle East envoy, negotiating the end of a war that is endless, that has ended now 34 times, that nobody ever wanted. And he's developing a Trump resort project for Gaza. It is so corrupt. And by the way, we could go on and on and on. Let's talk about what Howard Lutnick did. Howard Lutnick and his firm, his sons went out and they bought up all of the rights to the refunds for the tariffs, because when the tariffs went out, firms knew that the Constitution was then the Supreme Court was going to overturn the tariffs, which means that they would get a refund. So what did those giant corporations do? They sold 10 cents on the dollar to the Lutnick boys, which I guarantee you, along the line, in my opinion, the Trumps are involved in somehow, for over like a billions of dollars of refunds. And those corporate interests, what they do? They pass all of the cost on to consumers, and they get paid back, which goes into Howard Lutnick's kids' pocket, among others, in the administration. And again, that's just one more thing, like one thing. Talk about the Witkoffs.
Hunter, I was going to say, because you're such a good spokesperson, talking about corruption, and because you're building bridges to the MAGA base to talk about corruption, a MAGA base that has been told to obsess over your laptop, we made you a little present as you go about this work to make this maybe easier, maybe a little fun. You've got all these numbers to reference. If people go to hunterslaptop.org. We just spun this up.
We got that domain. No one had picked up hunterslaptop.org.
Somehow hunterslaptop.org was open. By the way, Hunter, it's yours. If you want it, we'll send it your way as soon as this is done. You can go check out what's inside Hunter's laptop. You can click on that, and what you'll find.
Mercedes, open the laptop.
There you go. And what you'll find is folder after folder after folder of different types of corruption going on in the Trump administration. If you click into those folders, you'll see article after article after article detailing what's going on.
This is amazing. I love this.
You had in the laptop all this time,
the whole time.
The Trump corruption in your laptop.
By the way, I'll tell you something, guys. This laptop is real. The other thing is bullshit.
It's the real. Maybe I should have bought that. The real Hunter's laptop. So if you're interested in checking out some of the numbers that Hunter just laid out there about all the corruption going on in the Trump administration, Hunter, when you're talking to MAGA, say, I got the laptop for you. I know Trump's been telling you for years and years to go see what's going on with Hunter's laptop. I got it for you, and you can educate. It's an educational device, really.
Well,
so,
like Xander said, we'll give you the domain, and you can do it.
By the way, that's the best surprise gift I've gotten in a long time. I love it, guys. Thank you. Yeah.
We know you'll get hauled in front of Congress to testify about it at some point. This gift that we've given you. But I have to tell you, when Xander called me earlier, he said, "Okay, look what I built."
I love it.
Myself.
You're a genius, Xander.
So we can add as much corruption into that laptop as we need to.
Hunter, well, if you want to, I tell you what, before we go, if you want to hear the story of the laptop of the last 7 years and everything that transpired, I have worked my ass off to put it together and writing about it. The first draft of it, which hopefully will become a book in the near future. And I tell the whole story of Rudy Giuliani, and I tell the whole story of Bannon and the New York Post and all of the characters. And there's literally like a glossary of like 65 names. And
You've
all
had
of the
some
Russians
wild characters too, man.
Yeah,
I read
really,
the Tony
really fascinating.
Bobolinsky press conference.
Yeah, Tony.
Tony's an
yeah.
uncle of mine, buddy. Like Tony's
Oh,
a
is he?
crazy person. I don't know how you got linked up with Tony.
Is
You
he
have a cast
actually?
of characters, like family friend right from the wrestling community. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's a crazy guy.
Yeah, crazy. And so yeah, there's a whole cast of characters in there. But more than anything, it's to do this. Is to like reveal to everybody what we all, the three of us, know intimately in the way in which they've come after us personally, Miles in particular, and other stuff. That they have no shame, none whatsoever, and we have to fight back. And I'll go and fight on any platform that will have me. I will go on. I don't care. I know I got this. My buddy, what's his name? The DC cop. I mean, truly, buddy. What? Michael Fanone. Yeah, Michael Fanone. He's like, Hunter Biden's an idiot. I'm like, I know, Michael. And I'm like, he's like, and Hunter, if you want to talk, get in touch with my people. And I literally, somebody showed me the thing, and I picked up my phone and I texted Michael. I said, Michael, get in touch with your people. Like, you have my number. You texted me. You texted me like a month ago. Like, we've talked on the phone. We've met 6 times together. I know your children. What are you talking about? But my point is Michael's like, yeah, you're getting used. I'm not getting used. I'm using them. And I will go on anybody's thing to talk about this. On every single one of these shows, I've had the opportunity to talk about the corruption. Here's the reason why. Because I do not believe the American people, even in MAGA, even that they'll put up with some, like a few dirty politicians every once in a while in this country. It's not like we haven't been without them, and it's not like they're not going to exist going in the future. But they will not accept 2 things at once: complete incompetence and corruption at the same time. They will not. And as gas prices go up and inflation goes up and the cost of their groceries go up, and there's the 17th recall in their home state for a normal food stuff that they rely on, and they're getting ripped off in broad daylight, I think people are going to stand up. But we just got to keep pointing it out.
I got one more crazy idea for you, Hunter, since you're going on every platform. This community right here, what we do is we come together, we put our membership fees together, and we make actions happen. We fund actions. Yeah. One of the things we're funding is a doc on Trump's corruption. I think you would make a killer narrator of that doc. I'd love to recruit you as the narrator of that doc. All right, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You're perfect for the job. All right. Right on.
You didn't ask me about that. I thought I was going to get to be the narrator. You've literally just replaced me live.
I know. On the air was the safest place to do it, in front of everyone, where you can't.
Exactly. What am I going to say? Right? Yeah.
Hunter,
all right, man.
We're all about action at Defiance. If there's one thing before you go that you would urge members of the defiance.org community to do to help bring us out of this mess, what would it be? What actions are you really hoping to see people take?
Okay, it's really, really easy. Is go find 5 people and create a little group that on election day you're going to go vote. It's the only thing that works, man. It is literally the only thing that works. We have to get a significant majority in the House, hopefully win the Senate, in order to even have a chance to put the brakes on. And that doesn't. And by the way, just winning alone is absolute necessity. And I don't care if you're a James Tallarico Democrat or you're a Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed Democrat. I don't care if you are a Zorhan Mandani Democrat. I don't care. You have to vote against whoever it is. It is that alone. No matter who the candidate is on the other side, I really mean it. As long as they're opposed to Donald Trump, we have to get them into a position of power to do something about it. That's it.
Well said.
You said it right there. Hunter Biden, thank you, my friend, literally for everything that you are doing. I think it matters even more than you realize. So
Thanks, guys.
we're very grateful.
Yeah, I got some tricks up my sleeve in the future, so I'll come back to you guys.
Oh,
It'll be
Hunter,
fun.
before we let you go, where can people find you? Because I know you're becoming
Oh
quite the
yeah,
creative.
Substack.
Yeah.
The place to go is Substack. Subscribe to my Substack. You subscribe for free or paid, it doesn't matter. I just want people on my Substack reading my Substack. It's I got some cool stuff in there. At least I worked hard at it. So okay.
It is at Hunter Biden on Substack. He got that domain before we could get it.
Yeah, I got a few of them. Thank God.
And we'll send that to you so you can do whatever you want with that website. Thank you for coming on, my friend.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, guys.
Bye,
See you.
Bye. Bye. See ya.
Sandra, it was a good note to end on because that's what we're doing today. I mean, that's our action this Wednesday, is about get out the vote, is helping to mobilize people across the country. And I honestly think, of all the actions that we laid out for the midterms last week, when we went through the checklist, you can literally go print out the checklist if you want it, folks. Defiance.org/midterms. Hunter laid out the most important one. 5 people. Get 5 people. They could be friends. They could be family members. They could be neighbors. Make sure you got 5 people that you're talking to.
They could be people you don't like. It's just going to be harder. It'll be harder if you go that route.
But get them out there to vote. Get them out there and help mobilize them. And Xander, we've got a guest today who is doing that in extraordinary fashion and has been for a long time. You want to tell us just a brief bit about this person before we bring him on? Because I think you could be his best spokesperson.
Yeah, he'd be embarrassed if I called him the GOAT, but we may have the GOAT on today. Pastor Mike McBride from Black Church Action Fund. The guy has been organizing Americans all over this country for a while. He is the inheritor of the legacy of the MLKs and the Jesse Jacksons before him, and in my view, has really done them proud. He's been an incredible leader for decades in this country and built one of the most powerful coalitions of voters by tethering together hundreds and hundreds of Black churches throughout this country. So it's my honor to introduce Pastor Michael McBride.
Pastor
What's
Mike,
up, brother?
Welcome back
Pastor
to the
Mike.
Daily, my friend.
Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
What's happening? It's great to be back here with the great Defiance comrades. Great to be here with you.
Right on, brother. I like that Miles is being called a comrade right now. By the way, that gives me that gives me a special type of joy.
Well, let me know if I need to keep that on the under a little bit. I'm glad that you keep
Trump's been calling all of us comrades, but I think he's the biggest comrade of all in a communist sense. The guy because he's been on a tear of controlling markets and trying to control the vote, and he just wants to control everything. He is like the perfect, Soviet communist, if there is one. But that's maybe neither here nor there, although probably very relevant. But Pastor Mike, I want to ask you about what you all are working on, because this is a year, 2026, where I think if you had asked me, I would have never imagined someone would describe 2026 like. Imagine 2001 Little Miles. I was thinking like we're landing on Mars in this window and doing extraordinary things.
Yeah, no kidding.
In our homes. Not that we are facing a once in a generation voter suppression and voter intimidation effort from the president of the United States, that we've rewound the clock back to pro in 2026. And I want you to tell me a bit about that, the moment that we are in, and also what your organizations have been doing about it.
Absolutely. And just thanks for having me back on. Michelle Alexander wrote a book about a decade, maybe 15 years ago, called The New Jim Crow, and was actually talking about the way the criminal justice system had created a permanent underclass of Black folks, brown folks, poor folks, due to over-criminalization and incarceration. And that was such a phenomenal disruption to our consciousness around the way Jim Crow had reinvented itself. And who would have thought that there would not need to be another reinvention of Jim Crow under this administration? They just call it Jim Crow 2.0. It's like we don't even gotta like call it new. We're literally, as you said, going back to the future, a re-inscribing of voter suppression, of stealing the representation that Black voters have at every level of government, to ensure, number one, that we have unfettered access to the ballot box, Number two, that ballot can be protected and not stolen. Number three, that the vote actually translates into representation of the interests of the voter. And all of these things are important to hold together, because people are trying to approach today's 2026 world with a colorblind lens, when we know that even with our best efforts, there are still some voices and some interests who do not get the representation needed. This administration and the Republicans have literally gone on a crusade to dismantle the protections of the Voting Rights Act, to gut the provisions that make sure that one person, one vote equals the representation of that collective body of voters. It is a very wicked and certainly surprising reality for many of us. I'm 50 years old. My grandparents fought these fights, and for them to literally be dying, closing their eyes to transition to the other side, and hearing that the fight they fought is now the same fight I have to fight at 50 years old, it is it's terrifying.
I was just about to bridge that conversation. I'm happy you brought that up. In some ways, this is a very new fight for some of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea that there'll be ICE at the polls, that there are going to be voter rolls purged, et cetera. But for the Black church, this has been a fight that you all have been leading in the front lines against for some time. And I wonder, my question is to you, what type of historical knowledge from those ancestors that you're talking about, your grandparents that fought that fight, is still relevant as we move into 2026, the fight in 2026? What knowledge do we need to be proliferating once again?
Yeah, so there is a secret sauce, you can call it, that continues to give us a roadmap. Number one, Black people of faith, Black faith leader, Black religious institutions believe that our work must be grounded in a deep spiritual and moral set of commitments. Justice is a moral commitment. Love, a moral commitment. Even sacrificial living, a moral commitment. These are not things that are given to everybody. We need a power greater than ourselves to help us to love our enemies, to push past the points of violence and threats and remain solid, to not lose hope and become hopeless. So the spiritual components of our struggle are one of the things that we know we must maintain. But we also know that culture is an important part. Music, art, they cultivate joy, they cultivate imagination and possibility. And so making sure that we are able to really keep depending on the cultural creations and art forms of our community, so we can keep translating what hope looks like in real time. And then the third thing I'll say is bold proclamation. We have to be speaking truth to power. We can't be mealy-mouthed and intimidated and afraid. So deep spirituality, powerful inspirational culture, and a bold, audacious voice to speak truth to power, speak truth to those individuals who may not understand the depth of their complicity, or those who understand, dare I say, overstand what they're doing, and let them know that we will not be intimidated or turned around.
I'm so glad that you frame it the way you did, because I honestly think our guest that we had on just before you, and I think you might have been in the green room for a few minutes while we had Hunter. Look, I mean, he exemplifies that, loving your neighbor, even loving your enemy, and engaging directly in this moment. That's what's been so disarming to some of these people who have been willing to defend the pro-dictator movement, no matter what, is that they feel like if they have an adversary in the pro-democracy side that's a mortal threat, well, then they'll stick with their guy no matter what. They'll stick with him no matter what. If he's stealing from the American people, if he's trying to take their right to vote, if he's censoring people, because the other side is a mortal threat. If you show the other side that you're not a mortal threat, you create an opening. You build that bridge that they can walk over to your side. They're going to come be a registered Democrat if that's what you want, but it means you're giving them space. You're giving them the opportunity to question the bullshit that they're being fed.
Right.
And
it's so important there's this this story I tell when I got locked up with Dr. Cornell Weston Ferguson, and I was all bent out of shape, and we were getting booked, and I had my San Francisco Hunters Point me mug on. I was me mugging the police, me mugging the booking agents out there. Dr. West is like, "Oh, God bless you, good brother." They fingerprinting him. God bless you, good brother. Okay, we understand. He's smiling while he's getting his mug shot taken, and I'm like, "Doc, what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, Brother McBride, Brother McBride, Brother McBride. Always keep the porch light on because you never know when people want to come home." And I think that is what faith offers to us, right? The possibility that miracles can happen. I still believe in miracles. I believe that the hardened heart can be softened. I believe that the wicked enemy can be defeated without us having to take their life. I believe that justice will prevail. I believe that the people will always win, even in the face of these opponents and oppositions. Faith helps us to see beyond what we think is possible and always give a pathway home for those who want to repent, want to make a 180-degree turn. That's what I hope the best of these values-based, faith-based movements can offer this country at this time.
Pastor Mike is the guy I call when I'm a little bit out of sorts. And last week I was out of sorts. Pastor Mike, I was threatening to fight MAGA influencers. I was all out of sorts, and I called Pastor Mike. I was a mess. I've since repented. I did on air yesterday. I said, that's not how I want to move in the world.
Yeah, just don't go to jail fighting over them folk. Now. We need to be free. we need to be free.
yeah, I need to stay in the game. I hear you, brother. But I call Pastor Mike. I'm like, look, man, you're who I go to when we need a plan. I know you got one. What's going on? The voter suppression thing is really on my mind. I'm doing my laps around the space trying to figure out who's got plans. And you do. You have one that has several stages. You have an intel gathering at county meetings, then you have trainings, then you have strategic volunteer deployment. Can you walk us through your plan around voter suppression, voter intimidation?
Absolutely. So we have a good comrade, Nse Ufu. Many may know that name. She was one of the co-founders of New Georgia Project, a very close comrade and architect with our dear beloved sister who ran for governor in Georgia and fell a little short, Stacey Abrams. Nse and I and others have been building this national but Southern focused strategy to make sure that every single county board of elections that is in the South, and I think there's maybe 1,300 of them, about 800 we want to be able to target and go visit with them and go to the meetings and take notes and make sure that the board of elections are not eliminating early voting, are not doing funny things with the voting stations, are not planning to have a militarized presence of law enforcement at the federal, state, local level. And so we're deploying volunteers and individuals to go and literally sit in these sessions for the next couple of months of meetings, take notes, and help us gather the intel we need so we can be showing up on voting day and making sure that each election location, particularly in the South, is a secure, safe location. Some places we may hear funny business, so now we can deploy people of faith and goodwill and be de-escalators, even help provide, some light security and de-escalation possibilities in some of these polling places that we know are going to be a problem. And then after election day, we want to keep the porch light on and make sure that whoever wins, right, in these races, we got governor races, we got senator races, we got House elections, we got state legislatures, we got mayors, that these folks can win the election if they do win and make it to being seated in that particular house of legislation. We just got to remember many folks who seem to be promoters of justice and goodwill, they have the longest path on average to be seated and to be sworn in. Just these delays could actually make a difference on a piece of legislation or accountability being extended. So we're inviting folks to help us be able to think about if you're situated in a county from Texas all the way up to Virginia, tap in with us and help us be able to secure some of these polling places. We're inviting churches, faith congregations to adopt a precinct. Imagine if every precinct that is a stone throw away or down the street, if you will, from a voting location, a polling place, every church in that region or in that space adopts that precinct. So every single person in that precinct is getting trusted information from trusted messengers and can have a point person on the ground to call and to support them. So that's another thing that we are hoping to do, is to adopt precincts. And the third thing I'll say, we're launching Sunday dinners. I don't know if this is true in every community, but I know in many of our Southern communities, after church on a Sunday, everybody would get at Big Mama's house, right? And you gossip about who wore what on Sunday. You talk about the choir that didn't do too well. You talk about the preacher didn't know what they was understanding. You gossip. You get all your good stuff out, but you had relationship. You had food. You made memories. In this moment where we have an epidemic of loneliness, we are more separated from one another than we've ever been. What would it look like for us to recreate the spirit of Sunday dinners and host supper meals and tables where we sit together, eat, plan, meet each other, close the gaps between us? So we'll be launching Sunday dinners in a bunch of these different counties and cities across the country as well. So those are several things that I believe will help us be able to keep organizing, not just faith communities, but all communities who love peace and justice between now and Election Day and beyond.
Well, Pastor Mike, I have to say, you have, as Xander said, you've been a legend in this space. You have built some of the most effective structures across the country to help mobilize people. And we think that communities of faith, like the ones that you lead, are going to be crucial in organizing to protect our democracy. And so we have a little announcement for you tonight. One of our Defiance.org members, Chris Palomino, we go to her for this video.
Hey, my name is Chris Palomino from Los Angeles. On behalf of all Defiance, I'm proud to present Black Church Action Fund with a grant of $10,000 to support their efforts in protecting our election and expanding the Too Big to Rig coalition.
All
Wow.
right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Let's go.
Oh man.
We're
Tell
so
me my
happy that-
sister's name again. What's her name?
Chris
Chris.
Palomino.
Chris.
She's kind of a star in this community. She's a bit of a celeb.
Wow. Well, Sister Chris, I thank you for you being a spokesperson for such great news. I appreciate that. Man, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
And Pastor Mike, that's not all. In this community, we ask people to take actions with the orgs that we are highlighting and supporting. And so we have 3 actions this week. You just talked about them, but I want to let you, mention anything else you want to. You talked about the Sunday dinners. If we can pull up defiance.org/actions, we got the 3 listed there.
Yeah, so the actions this week, Pastor Mike, and what I would say to folks, especially new members of Defiance.org, people who are already members, this is what your member fees are going towards. You're helping to fund these actions. Your donations are going to saving our democracy and to groups like Pastor Mike's organization. But if you want to go above and beyond, these are the actions for this week. And the first one, Pastor Mike, we had put on there was to take the Love Free Organizer Boot Camp. What can you tell people about the boot camp and how they can get involved? And we have links to it at defiance.org/actions.
Yes, go to livefreelovefree.com. A Love Free Boot Camp is literally a 1.5 to 2 day boot camp that happens quarterly in regions across the country where you can learn the organizing strategies we use to create things like a Sunday dinner or a Get Out the Vote campaign or a violence prevention campaign. It's a way to activate your faith and your values around building community, expanding freedoms, and creating peace. So it's a 1.5 to 2 day workshop or boot camp, we call it. You'll get trained by some of our best organizers, and one is coming to a region near you. We've done 7 of them already this year. We have 3 more planned. I think our next one's in California. And we have one coming up in Chicago, Illinois pretty soon. So sign up. We love to have you there and join our growing community of loving people freely and extravagantly.
Fantastic.
Right on.
The second one we have on there, I think we might need to fix the hyperlink. It was going to
I'll fix it. I'm on it. I'm on it, boss.
resident tech support. We're going to fix it in real time.
We're going to do it live. Let's do it live.
You mentioned dinners, Pastor Mike, and so we're suggesting that folks host or join a love-free dinner, and we're going to get the right link there on our site so folks can go there. But Pastor Mike's probably got the link to mainline you into how you can sign up.
Absolutely. All these links are at livefreelovefree.com. But the Sunday dinners or the Love Free dinners, they're literally you just volunteering your home and opening it up to people that you are, proximal to, people that you may not have a whole lot of relationship with, but man, we can probably connect over some food, and or coming to one that's near you. We have another dozen or so that will be scheduled and planned over the next several months. So it's just an opportunity for us to break bread together. But in these love-free Sunday dinners, you will again get proximity to people who are organizing. You'll start to learn and hear stories and share your own story. It's a deep place of relationship. We're asking folks who are able to help us sponsor a dinner. $500 gets a dinner literally sponsored, and the food is provided. The venues are often homes or community centers or faith congregations. Sunday dinner, it's a super concrete way to keep building these relationships.
Please do that, folks. Please go and do this. I mean, we talk the talk a lot about getting people together and how you can build bridges in person and why that's essential for organizing. It's true. It all matters. You go do it and you realize it. I mean, there's a reason why communities of faith, like the ones that you cultivate, Pastor Mike, have been so effective at organizing, because they get this in repeatable fashion every week. I get this every week when I go to church. I have this phenomenon, this wake-up call that, wow, getting together with people is really powerful.
Yeah, no kidding.
One of the only places on a weekly basis I'm getting together with a bigger group than, just my girls downstairs or maybe my neighbors or, some friends. Like that's the place. And you realize the power of it. So I would urge people to go sign up there. We have a third action there, Xander. And that
and the links work.
There's
Look
always
at that.
Is to join a love-free voter initiative, and same links apply. We've said the links a million times, but go check out the Love Free website, or if you're lazy and you want to go to defiance.org/actions, you can find it all there now. Go join one of those voter initiatives that we talked about. And I feel like, Pastor Mike, your folks are going to be truly out there on the front lines, given what I heard in the battlegrounds, making sure that we protect our democracy this cycle.
Absolutely. And I hope people appreciate that if we do this well in the South, it reverberates to our democracy and our country being strengthened everywhere. The South is indeed ground zero. I live in the Bay Area in California, but all of my family members are living in the South: Tennessee, Virginia, Georgia. My people literally were emancipated in Red Springs, North Carolina. So our whole family lives in the South. They are living literally under this emerging terror of not being protected, not having the Constitution extend to them, not having access to vote without a whole lot of barriers. So let's protect our loved ones in the South. We say all roads lead to the South, and the South is everywhere, playing off of that wonderful Andor kind of declaration. So yeah, y'all, if we do it in the South, we literally do it everywhere. Help us help our Southern loved ones, and by extension, this country.
Thank you so much for being here, Pastor Mike. Thank you for all the work you're leading. We are behind you. I mean, I know you and I are going to keep texting about what else we can do. So just keep any of your good ideas, keep sending them this way, and we'll rally the troops.
Appreciate you, Xander. Appreciate you, Miles. One love to Defiance. Thank y'all for that generous donation to the Black Freedom Fund as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Pastor Mike.
All right. Also on that actions page, by the way, sorry, go ahead, Miles. What were you going to say?
Oh, no. I was just saying, I love having him on the program. He's amazing, and he's inspiring. And, when people are having hopeless days, this is what I want you to remember. I mean, Hunter was talking about how we all get way too deep down the social media rabbit hole. And some nights you're probably scrolling and saying, he did 10 illegal things today. It's hopeless. What are we going to do about it? The Pastor Mikes of the world are marshaling hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people to get out there, including you. I hope including you, to get out there and actually do something about it. That's where this whole thing ends. It doesn't. Yep. It starts on social media, but it doesn't end on social media. It ends out there in the actual real world. And I know that there are people who are hearing me talk about this right now who agree, and are still going to be folks who, when election day comes, are like, I don't know if I want to drive down the street to that middle school. Guys, if you can't carve out the time to go cast that ballot, we're not going to get through this thing. But that's not even the minimum standard. The minimum standard is the one that Hunter mentioned earlier. 5 voters. The minimum standard is signing up to host a dinner like Pastor Mike, taking a free organizer boot camp. That's the minimum standard, is going and doing these things out there in the real world to protect our democracy. Do that with me. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kick my ass. I'll tell you, every day after I feel like I fight all day to defy Trump's corruption, but then even I will get to something like, it's primary voting time in Virginia. And I say to Hannah, I'm like, I got so much going on. I don't want to. And she had
It's so true. It's so
funny. Me the other month when we were voting in Virginia. She was like, this is your job. You do this every day and you're not going to go cast the ballot. And I didn't argue with her. She was right. But don't let that complacency set in, right?
Totally.
Us sitting here and talking about it isn't doing the real work. The groups that we're funding, the initiatives that we launch, those things are the real work, and you can participate in them. So I hope you go check out defiance.org/actions and see some of those actions to participate in the Love Free initiative. They're doing amazing work. And Xander, you were going to mention, I think, the badge.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, election day, the only time you should drive down to the middle school. Don't do it on the other days. That's the one day you drive down and hang out at the middle school.
Unless you have kids in middle school. But
Unless there's a specific child that you're taking care of. All right. You should be proud of yourself. We are investing heavily in those bringing hope to Americans, making sure we're connected. And so this week, you support faith-based community organizing, one of the most effective, tried and true strategies to protecting democracy. You should be proud of it. You should share it on social media. It'll break up the doom scroll for a lot of people. It'll be doom, hopefulness. So you can be that person that provides that. So go ahead and share your badge. It's at defiance.org/actions, as are your actions.
Love that, my friend. Great message from Pastor Mike. Also, I know we're 2 minutes into overtime, but we might have a chance to no, my producer's telling us no. Do we have time for one or two questions? We do have time for one or two.
We do. Those are thumbs up. All right.
We take our orders from Mercedes. But feel free to drop any questions into the chat. I will say Xander and I just had a phone call earlier today where we were talking about what we have planned for September. We have this very, very big sprint into the midterm elections, folks, to protect our democracy. And a number of important things that we're going to take care of in between now and then. But I would really say, if you're ever at loss, just go back to that list that we had the Freedom Trainers brief you on last week. And if you weren't on our show last week, you can go check it out at defiance.news, or you can just go to defiance.org/midterms. I know we throw in a lot of web addresses at you, but it's just a really, really simple checklist that's going to help you do the things you need to do to protect our democracy heading into the midterms. Okay, we got a couple of questions. Xander, Jessica asks, what's the status on the Unfit 2 documentary? Do we have a list of cities the bookmobile is heading to? So glad you asked that question. I am frustrated with me that we haven't had announcements sooner, but these things take a lot of time and planning. Thanks for asking.
Didn't we just close the narrator? I think that was legally binding. Hunter said he was in to narrate it. So that was big news right now, just today.
You asked at just the right time. On the bookmobile piece, we were hoping that this week was going to be the week that the city announcement rolled out. I'll tell you, even if our partners maybe aren't ready for me to tell you, Monday, August 31st, there will be a national press release that goes out with the initial cities. Some of them are not going to surprise you. Some of you already know certain cities are coming down the pike because you've heard us talking about it. But this coming Monday is when the press release goes out about where the bookmobile is going to be, at least initially. And Xander and I will be at, I think, those first couple locations. He and I were talking today about getting stuff lined up for those. So we're really, really excited about that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Trump Epstein bookmobile. We teamed up with the Institute of Primary Facts to help print all 3.5 million Epstein files and send them both physically and digitally on a truck around the country to raise awareness, to get justice for the survivors, and to make sure, especially ahead of the midterms, that people do not forget the ongoing cover-up that is happening. The very first place the truck is going to appear, folks, I think is going to make a really big splash. That's all I can say. And the last place. The first place, I don't know if Xander, you remember the last, but the first and last places are going to make a
Very
really
nice.
big splash. So stay tuned. And then the second piece, Jessica, you asked about the documentary we're producing ahead of the midterms. I think we'll be able to talk about that in a little bit more detail this week. Maybe, Xander, we should talk about that more on our Friday coffee. We've got some cool things that we're going to announce on top of the announcement we already made. We rejiggered the documentary a little bit so that this is more of a micro doc. We worked with our partners and felt like, an hour and a half is a long time to ask people to go sit and then mobilize them to go act in our elections. And so this is going to be more of a micro doc with activations built into it to help protect our democracy against corruption. This is going to be a lot of fun to roll out, but for those of you who signed up to host watch parties, we're still going to want you to host watch parties in October. And we'll tease some of that on Friday with you so you get a better sense of what's coming. We will make a proper announcement about the date and all of those things, but we're in production mode right now on that piece.
Not for nothing, better to have a doc in October than December this year. So that was a big piece of that decision, making sure that we got this piece of content out ready to influence this vote and not too late. So,
correct.
Mary, go ahead. Mary says, are you encouraging people to vote early? Yes. In fact, Mary, we're encouraging people to do 6 things. You can see all of those on defiance.org/midterms. You will see step number 3 is vote early, and not just vote early, vote together. That is important because of what we've been talking about. Your job is not just to get out there, it's to educate a few friends of yours, and you'll see opportunities to write in 3 friends' names in that list that you are responsible for voting early. Why is that important? Well, it's really important to vote early, just period, to make sure your votes count. But it also frees you up for step 4, which is acting like Election Day is a civic holiday so you can help others vote. So if you've done your civic duty, you can spend Election Day protecting voters, poll watching, doing all the things, maybe driving people to the polls, doing all the things you need to do to make sure your community can turn out.
Yeah, and if you want to hit the easy button and you're not yet a defiance.org member, you can just sign up. We are literally your concierge corruption fighters. That's why we did this. So
that was our first name. Defiance.org sounded better though.
Concierge corruption fighters. So that you don't have to sit down every single week after work or after a busy week and say, gosh, what am I going to do this week to counter Trump's abuses of power? How am I going to protect our democracy? We're literally doing that for you every single week. We're working our butts off to tee up opportunities to fight back against this. This is what we are doing. If you want to, ahead of these crucial midterms, fund extraordinary efforts to protect our country and where it is needed most, that's where we are investing our time. Where it's needed most, what's going to be most effective, you can just sign up at defiance.org. So please come join us, help us do what we are doing, and stand with other defiance.org members, the Defiance, in helping to fund these extraordinary efforts to protect our country. That's all the time we have today, folks. But I hope you will join us again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for a regular episode. Well, there's never a regular episode. For another great episode of Defiance Daily, we're going to talk about where we're
terrible sales pitch for a big letdown after today. Tune in tomorrow.
Just an ordinary episode on Thursday. No, we'll have a great program tomorrow. We'll also probably, because we can't help it, we'll probably just drop more hints of what's planned for the future weeks. There's a lot underway to protect our country and our midterms, and we hope you will come be a part of it. In the meantime, friends, as we always say, stay loud, stay brave, and stay together. We'll see you soon.